Hello and welcome back to Kim Reads, to continue with Wicked. Chapter 4 of the Uprising part. She slept by daylight in the shadow of barns, the overhangs of eaves, the lee of chimneys. She traveled by night. In the gloom, all spread out below. She hovered above it at 80 feet, near as she could reckon, and the countryside made a geographical transformation with the ease of vaudeville backdrop on rollers. The hardest passage was down steep in the flanks of the great hills. Once free of the mountains, however, she saw Oz level out to the rich alluvial plain of the Gillikin River. She flew along the waterway, among trading vessels and islands, till it fed into the Rustwater, Oz's largest lake. She kept it to the southern edge, and took a whole night to traverse it, as it endlessly lapped in black, oily, silly waves into sedge and swamp. She had trouble finding the mouth of the Munchkinland River, which drained into Rustwater from the eastern direction. Once she did, though, it was easy to locate the yellow brick road. The farmland grew even more lush. The effects of the drought, so drastic in her childhood, had been eradicated, and dairy farms and small villages seemed to prosper, happy as a child's toy town set, cunning and cozying in the wrinkled, nappy land of arable soil and accommodating climate. The farther east she went, however, the more torn up the highway she became. Crowbars had pried out bricks. Trees had been felled and brush walls erected. It looked as if a few of the smaller bridges had been dynamited. A safeguard against retaliation by the wizard's army. 7 days after leaving her chambers at Kiamako, Elphaba flew into the hamlet of Colwyn Grounds and slept under a green bay tree. When she awoke, she asked a merchant for the great house, and he trembling pointed her way as if she were a demon. So a green skin still gives Munchkinlanders the creeps, she observed, and walked the last couple of miles and around at the front gates of Colwyn Grounds a little after breakfast. She had heard her mother speak of Colwyn Grounds wistfully and angrily as they stopped in waterproof boots through 6 inches of quaddling country water. Elfie's years in the smug antiquity of Shiz and the pomp of Emerald City ought to have prepared her for an imposing mansion. But she was startled, even shocked, at the grandeur of Colwyn Grounds. The gate was gilded, the forecourt swept clean of every scrap of grass and dung, and a bank of topiary saints in terracotta pots lined the balcony about the massive front door. Dignitaries with ribbons denoting new rank and prestige in the free state of Munchkinland, she guessed, stood in small groups to one side. Coffee cups in hand, the official had apparently just finished an early morning privy council meeting. Inside the gate, Sword stepped neatly up and barred her way. She began to protest, instantly branded a menace and a loon she could see, and she was about to be ejected when a figure wandered up into view from around the corner of a folly and called for them to stop. "Fabala," he said. "Yes, Papa, I'm here," she answered with a child's politeness. She turned. The dignitaries paused in their discussions and then resumed, as if realizing that overhearing this reunion would be the height of rudeness. The guards withdrew their barrier when Frex approached. His hair was thin and long and caught up in the rawhide implement, as it had always been. His beard was the color of cream and reached his waist when he took his hands away from it. This is the sister of the Eminence of the East," said Frex, staring at Elphaba, "and my oldest daughter. Let her pass through, dear men, now and every time she approaches." He reached and caught her hand and turned his head as a bird might to see it through one capable eye. The other eye, she realized, was dead. Come on, we will greet each other in private, away from the attention, said Frex. My word, Fabala, you have become your mother in these long years. He linked his arm into hers, and they went in the building through a side door and found a small salon done up in saffron silks and plum velvet cushions. The door closed behind them. Frex lowered himself cautiously to the sofa and patted the upholstery next to him. She sat down, weary, tired, and astonished at the wealth of her own feeling for him. She was full of need, but she reminded herself, "You're a grown woman." "I knew you'd come if I wrote," he said. "Fabala, I always knew that." He wrapped her in his arms stiffly. It made her cry for a moment. When he was through, he asked her where she had gone and what she had done and why she had never come back. "I'm not sure there was a back to come to," she answered, realizing the truth of it as he spoke. "When you finish converting a town, Papa, you move on to new fields. Your home was in the pasture of souls. Mine never was. Besides, I had my own work to do," she added in a low voice. "Or I thought I did." She mentioned her years in the Emerald City, but did not say why. "And was Nanny right? Were you a mount? I didn't raise you for such submission," he said. "I'm surprised. Such conformity and obedience." "I was no more a mount than I ever was a unionist," she chided him gently. "But I lived in the mounts. They did good work, whatever the error or inspiration of their beliefs. It was time of recreation from a difficult passage. And then last year I went to the Vinkus, and I guess I made my home there, although for how long I cannot stay." "And what do you do?" he said. "Are you married?" "I'm a witch," she answered. He recoiled, peered through the working eye to see if she spoke in jest. "Tell me about Nessie before I see her, and shall. Your letter sounded if you thought she needed help. I'll do what I can in the short while that I'm here." He told her about her sister's rise to eminence and the secession in the late spring. Yes, but I know of it, but not why," she said, prodding. So he described the burning of a grade or opposition meeting having gathered, the reported rape of a couple of Munchkinland maidens following a cotillion of the wizard's army garrison near Dragon Cupboard. He mentioned the massacre at Far Appalu and heavy taxation on farm crops. The last straw, he said, as far as Nessie was concerned, anyway, was the callow despoiling by the soldiers' wizards of simple country meeting houses. "Unlikely the last straw," said Elphaba. "Isn't the back room of a colliery as holy a place to pray as a meeting house? I mean, according to teaching." "Well, teaching," said Frex. He shrugged. Such distinctions were beyond him now. Nessie was incensed and communicated her outrage, and before she even knew it, a spark had been thrown out and the tinder was caught. Within a week of her firing off a furious letter to the Emperor Wizard himself, a dangerous and sedacious act, the revolutionary fueler had coalesced around her. It happened right here in the forecourt of Colin Grounds. It was magnificent. You would guess Nessie was groomed for treason. She addressed the senior men among the farming communities, both near and far, and kept her religious agenda in check, sensibly, I think. So her appeal for their support was overwhelmingly answered. There was a unanimous approval for succession. "Papa's gone pragmatic in his old age, officer," Elphaba observed with some surprise. "But how did you slip through the border patrols?" he asked. "Things being what they are, hotting up as they say." "I just flew right through, a little black bird at night time," she answered, smiling at him. and touching his hand. It was glazed and mottled in pink like a late lobster on the boil. But what I don't know is, Papa, is why you call me here. What do you expect me to do? I thought you might join your sister in her seat of authority, he said with a simple-minded hope of one whose family had been too long apart. I know who you are, Fabala. I doubt you have changed over the years. I know your cunning and your conviction. I also know that Nessie is at the mercy of her religious voices, and she could slip and undo the terrible good she is helping create right now by being a focal figure for resistance. If that happens, it will not go well for her. So I am to be a whipping girl, thought Elphaba. I am to be a first line of defense. Her pleasure evaporated. And it will not go well for them, the eager supporters, Freck said, waving a hand to indicate most of Munchkinland. His face sagged. His smile was an effort too, she thought coolly, and his shoulders fell. They have no been more a generation of gentle dictatorship from our glorious wizard scoundrel. Oh, even I forget. We're now in the free state of Munchkinland. These farmers surely underestimate the size of eventual retaliation. In fact, Shell has gone from reliable sources that the stockpile of grain in the Emerald City are massive, and we can be left for some time without needing to overrun. Short of rooting some divisions of soldiers across the border and jailing some drunken hooligans, this has been the most genteel distribution so far. We are deluded into believing we are safe. I mean, Nessie is deluded too, I think. You, I've always felt, had a clear mind about you. You can help her prepare. You can provide the balance and the support. I always did that, Papa, she said, in childhood and at college. Now I am told she can stand up for herself. You've heard of my precious shoes, he said. I brought them from a decrepit crone, and then I retooled them for Nessa with my own hands, using skills in glass and metal that once I learned from Turtleheart. I made them to give a sense of beauty, but I didn't expect them to be enchanted by someone else. I am not sorry they are, but Nessa now thinks she needs no one to help her stand or help her govern. She listens less than ever. In some ways, I think those shoes are dangerous. I'm going to stop it right there and continue later.